Welcome, friends, to another episode of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. We are retired New York City police detectives. That's me and Ed Wallace. We're also 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. I have tonight with me as a co-host Melanie Little, who is a established trial attorney, a mom of 5, and you know the deal. She has her own YouTube channel. Go on over there and subscribe to her YouTube channel. We're going to be talking to you tonight about the Harmony Montgomery case. Her evil father was sentenced yesterday to an approximate, maybe a little bit over 60 years in prison on unrelated weapons charge. This is not has anything to do with Harmony Montgomery's murder. That trial is going to start in November. We're going to get into it tonight. But first, we'd like to say a special thank you to you, the live chatters, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the folks who subscribe to both these communities. You guys are what makes us a great place. And Melanie and I give thanks and praise to each and every one of you. We thank you for your input. We thank you for your engagement, because without you guys, we got nothing. Right, Mel?
We got nothing without you guys. You guys are the best.
Yeah, we definitely greatly appreciate you guys. But we're going to get into the sentencing. It happened, I believe it was yesterday it happened. There was a lot of stuff going on. We had the Troy driver in the Naomi Arion case. He committed suicide in prison, so I had to cover that. So I didn't want to intertwine both of these cases. Melanie sent me a text message yesterday. Is hey, we got Adam Montgomery sentenced. Let's get on it. So we put it off till tonight. So let's get right into Melanie. It looks like at his age, in his early 30s, with this full sentencing, it doesn't look like Adam Montgomery, just on these weapons charges that he was sentenced with yesterday, has a good chance of seeing the light of day. Now we also have Harmony's case that we will see hopefully in November, a trial commence, and they could seal the deal. But this guy looks like he'll be in his 90s before he's eligible to get out. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what the prosecutor did here and how great this is for justice.
Yeah, my thoughts are thank God. Thank God this guy's not getting out of prison anytime soon. Thank God he can't hurt anybody else or any other little children. And thank God we have a trial to look forward to in late November for the murder of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. And when I knew that we were going to handle this case today, I went back to my notes and I'm going to just trigger warn anybody who doesn't know a lot about this case. We're not going to get very deeply into it because it is so alarming and so horrifying that it was hard for me to even go back and read over my notes on this. But we're seeing some kind of justice today, and he's going to stay in jail for a very long time, regardless of what happens with the murder trial. But, we're hoping for a good verdict on that, too.
Absolutely. And, I have a full case file full of notes here. When I started looking over the particulars on it, again, it got me shaken as well, because when you look at these cases like this, you just say to yourselves, how could there be somebody that's that evil out there? Somebody who would take his own flesh and blood and wrap her in a garbage bag and bring her from place to place, and go as far as bring her to your place of employment, put her in a meat locker or a freezer.
I
mean, this guy is a savage.
And we're seeing so much of this lately too. Parents killing their own children. What is going on?
It's an utter insanity. And this is why you have to keep your head on a swivel. You got to pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhood and with people that are like, I'm now finding myself just questioning things that I never would have questioned before. And I spent a whole 2 decades in the New York City Police Department, and 10 of those years was a detective. So it's troubling. And as Jacqueline says, absolutely heinous, a heinous crime, evil monster. I want to take you guys to the courtroom. This judge, she did a great job of sentencing him. She set him up. She gave him the 1-2 punch. And Judge Amy Messer, she really gave him the maximum sentences under the state of New Hampshire, the law. So I really enjoyed listening to this with you, Melanie. But let's let the audience take a listen to this. This is Adam Montgomery before the court. And I got to tell you, he had the audacity, he had the balls to stand up and ask this judge to not consider the charges against him. And you know, that goes without saying. Melanie, I know you can speak on this. The judge wouldn't have done that anyways. This is not what goes on in a court of law. They look at the case that's before them. They sentence after the jury finds you guilty, and they go from there. He had to control this courtroom by standing up and saying, "I did not kill my daughter," which was shocking. I can't even believe as a defense attorney allowed him to say that.
I know. I want to watch this a little more closely because I want to see what her reaction is. I want to see if I can tell if she knew that he was going to do this or if he just sort of took command there. It was a very, very bizarre thing to do.
Yeah. Let's take it from here and let's listen. This is the judge setting him up and outlining his reign of terror over his years as a career criminal.
That any sentence imposed today would be taking that into consideration. And I want to tell you that the court is not. You will have your trial on that. You're being sentenced today on these armed career criminal and theft charges that you've already been found guilty of. But the court notes that there are a significant number of aggravating factors here, making the minimum mandatory sentences that you're requesting inappropriate. First and perhaps foremost, each of the prior felony offenses outlined by the state in their sentencing memorandum involved significantly violent behavior and violent conduct that involved weapons. Your prior conduct over the 15 years may be some of the most violent and egregious that I have seen. It involves a knife to the throat of a 15-year-old, a gun pointed at a woman with a child in the home during a home invasion, a gun pointed at a police officer, and an armed robbery where the victim was shot in the face. You yourself were shot during that incident. Not all predicate offenses for armed robberies are for armed career criminal cases are the same. And these predicate offenses are particularly egregious. This case itself, the stolen firearms in this case also had significant aggravating factors. These guns were stolen. There was a child in the house. The guns were maintained while you yourself had children in the home. There was trading, selling, buying back of guns. The guns were sold to and bought back from a convicted sex offender. And ultimately, one of the guns was discovered in the hands of an individual who is apparently trafficking in both guns and drugs. The brazen nature of your conduct, the bragging. I mean, I listened to these witnesses. You bragged about the guns. You talked about them being hidden in the walls of your home. You talked about concerns about being discovered by the ATF. I mean, this is not a felony where there were 3 predicate offenses involving controlled drug acts. The gun violence has taken a toll on our community, particularly on the young people here. And the trafficking of guns in the community, the violence that we see as a result of those guns being in the wrong hands cannot be minimized. And for these reasons, as I said, I don't believe that the minimum mandatory sentences are appropriate here. Therefore, the court is...
So she just set him up for the maximum penalties allowed by the law. She basically laid out the reason why she's going to sentence him to the max on everything. And before this, what the audience doesn't realize is that the prosecution presented why he should get the max, and obviously the defense presented why he should receive the minimum. And it's pretty standard, Melanie, in trials, right? This is how it goes.
Yeah, it's a pre-sentencing report that they do.
But what this judge did was fantastic, because she laid the groundwork down as to why she is going to impose the maximum sentence. And I thought it was just so well stated on her behalf. You could tell that she knew exactly what she was going to do here. And this is to the letter of the law, and it's perfect. So let's listen to her impose the maximum sentence here.
It's going to sentence you to 15 to 30 years on each of the armed career criminal charges consecutive to each other. On the theft cases, what I'm going to do on those is you'll get a 7.5 to 15-year stand committed sentence. 5 years of each of those sentences will be suspended, conditioned on your good behavior and compliance with the terms and conditions of the sentencing order. And I will tell you that I am doing that because given your history, I want something to incentivize you to be of good conduct while you are at the prison. And if you are not of good conduct or you commit other crimes while you are incarcerated, the state can move to impose that suspended portion of your sentences. So on each of the theft charge, they'll be concurrent with each other, but they will be consecutive to the armed career criminal charges. We will have a restitution hearing. I'll allow the state 90 days to file a pleading with regard to restitution. If no pleading is filed, no restitution will be ordered. So I'm going to read you the sentences now. Please listen carefully. On charge ID 2008743C, you are sentenced to the New Hampshire State Prison for not more than 30 years nor less than 15 years. There is added to the minimum sentence a disciplinary period equal to 150 days for each year of your minimum sentence to be prorated for any part of the year. This sentence is to be served as follows: stand committed, commencing today. The court recommends the Department of Corrections that you be screened and or assessed for drug and alcohol treatment needs. The state will be granted 90 days to submit a pleading regarding their request for restitution. If they do so, a restitution hearing will be scheduled upon further filing or objection by your counsel. Additionally, you're to meaningfully participate in and complete any counseling, treatment, or educational programs as directed by the correctional authority or probation parole. You are ordered to have no contact with Christopher or Kimberly Frayne. That no contact is either directly or indirectly, including but not limited to contact in person, by mail, phone, email, text message, social networking sites, or through third persons. No contact at all, Mr. Montgomery. That would be cause to impose the suspended portion of your sentence. Law enforcement will be directed that they could destroy or return evidence to its rightful owner in the case. You are ordered to be of good behavior and comply with all the terms of your sentence. Additionally, on charge ID 2008742C, you are sentenced to New Hampshire State Prison for not more than 30 years nor 15 years. There is added to the minimum sentence a disciplinary period equal to 150 days for each year of your minimum sentence to be prorated for any part of the year. That sentence is to be served stand committed, consecutive to charge ID 2008743C. The court recommends to the Department of Corrections that you be screened or assessed for drug and alcohol treatment needs. Additionally, you are required to meaningfully participate in and complete any counseling, treatment, or education programs as directed by the correctional authority or probation parole. You have the same no contact order on this charge as well. Law enforcement may destroy or return evidence to its rightful owner in this case, and you are ordered to be of good behavior and comply with all the terms of the sentence. On charge ID 1964099C, you are sentenced to New Hampshire State Prison for not more than 15 years nor less than 7.5 years. You have the 150-day disciplinary period to be prorated for any part of the year. Stand committed. 5 years of the minimum and none of the maximum is suspended. The suspensions are conditioned upon your good behavior and compliance with all the terms and conditions of the sentencing order. The suspended sentence will begin today and end 15 years after your release from this charge. So this charge is consecutive to the armed career criminal charges, but concurrent with the other theft charge. All of the other conditions that I reviewed with you earlier with regard to the destruction or return of evidence, the requirement of good behavior, and that you be screened for drug and alcohol treatment needs are also included on this sentence. On charge ID 1964098C, you are sentenced to the identical sentence that I just reviewed with you, which is, and these two sentences are concurrent. It's the not more than 15 years nor less than 7.5 years at the New Hampshire State Prison with the 150-day disciplinary period, and includes the 5 years of the minimum sentence, and none of the maximum sentence are suspended. The suspensions are conditioned on your good behavior and compliance with all the terms and conditions of the sentencing order. That suspended sentence will begin today and end from 15 years from your release on charge ID 1964098C. All of the other terms and conditions that I reviewed with you on the other theft charge are also imposed on this charge. Do you have any questions about that? All right. Yes.
I thought I heard it, but I'm not positive. Pre-trial credit on the first trial.
Pre-trial confinement credit of 580 days on the first charge.
And that pretrial credit, don't get caught up on it. That's his time that he was in custody. Correct, Melanie?
Yeah, that's the time served.
Right. So time served is the time he is in jail awaiting this sentence.
Yeah, he's already been there for 580 days, which is, a little over 300,
Yeah, it's a little over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year. So they just take off a year. I mean, he's got 30 years at least, plus. So
Yeah, no, I mean, look,
I think it's okay.
With everything running concurrent, it's over 60 years if he does the maximum time.
Mhm.
And from here on out, I'm not going to play the rest of this because this is 8 minutes. It's just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo and arguments from both sides. But Melanie, I saw you taking a lot of notes. I just wanted to get your take away and what were some of the sticking points of what the judge said here. And the audience, they have lots of questions. People are like, asking quite a bit of questions. Hold them to the end. We'll get to you guys and doing a town hall here. So,
well, I thought she was really setting it up, to prevent an appeal, to lock down her reasoning for the sentencing. And so because the main charges were, possession of firearms by a career criminal, which he was because he had several felonies on his record, she delineated what exactly the felonies were and how violent they were and how egregious they were. And how she said that, she's a judge and they're some of the most violent felonies that she's ever seen. He held a knife to the throat of a 15-year-old. He held a gun at a mother, I think with a baby, she said. There was an armed robbery where he shot a man in the face during a heroin deal, which she didn't even mention. So I think she's locked it up for an appeal. I don't think, it's appealable. I mean, look, they're going to try within 30 days. They'll file a notice of appeal. They always do. But I think that, she added in all the aggravating factors. He bragged about it. There was trading of the weapons. He was trying to sell them. He was trying to trade them. He had kids in his house. He stole the guns from a house where there were kids. So there's so many aggravating factors here that she definitely justified the sentence that she gave him. And justice, I think, was served in this case.
I absolutely, wholeheartedly, 100% agree. But again, until we have a trial for the heinous crimes that he allegedly committed against Harmony Montgomery, people won't rest here. And, I see people in the chat saying, well, throw him under the jail, throw him under the prison when he gets sentenced for Harmony. We need to have obviously, the wheels of justice are still spinning. We need to have this trial commence, hopefully. And for some reason, I just get this feeling that it's gonna happen after Christmas, because in November it's Thanksgiving-ish, and that's when the kickoff of the holiday season is. I have a feeling that this trial will start sometime early in 2024. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I'd like to see this thing go. But what we saw here today is a classic example of justice winning here. And we got justice because he effectively will never see the light of day. And if he does, if he has that remote slither of a chance to see the light of day, he'll be in his late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, he's 33 years old right now. So, I don't.
Yeah,
it's going to be gone for a long time. And then she also, gave him some incentive to be behaved in jail, by saying that if you have good behavior, I'll suspend 5 years off of each sentence, because she doesn't want him causing trouble in there, because a guy who knows he's never going to get out is pretty much going to, do whatever he wants because he has no hope anyway.
What always amazes me is when you see inside a courtroom that some of the judges want to give an incentive for him to have good behavior. And I'm all for that. But if you look at this guy's history from when he was a juvenile, this guy, when he was a teenager, he started his crime spree. What is to make us think that in a jail, in a prison environment. He's not going to be in a jail. He's going to be in a prison. They're going to send him to a state prison where there's tons of bad people just like himself that have been sentenced. Unfortunately, it's not a great environment to cultivate someone into being a good person.
Yeah,
He's evil.
a career criminal.
You know what I mean? A career criminal is not going to be changed into an altar boy. This is a real evil, sick scumbag monster. And I say that with extreme conviction. You know, I've been around people like this throughout my career. I've driven in vehicles from very far upstate down to Rikers Island when I worked in the trip team with people who have taken other people's lives. And I've had many conversations for hours with people like this. And they just know nothing but evil. They know nothing but how to get over, how to hustle, how to hide, how to get over, how to scam, how to do this, how to, you know, how to commit crimes and not get detected. So he'll continue on with his shitty behavior, I'm sure, in jail and in prison. And I don't think that there'll be, it's a good future for him, and he doesn't deserve it. I see everybody in the chat there. People are saying bury him underneath the prison.
Yeah, somebody said, is it in New Hampshire? Yes, it's in New Hampshire. This is Hillsborough County. I believe it's Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yes, Hillsborough County, New Hampshire, and it's in Manchester. Hey, I wanted you guys to see Crystal Sorey was in the courtroom, and she did an interview after the sentencing. So I'm going to play a little piece from Crystal Sorey, and it's a mixed bag of review on Crystal Sorey. This is Harmony Montgomery's biological mom. Mm-hmm. But I want to play this piece because I think it's important for everybody to see it. This is Adam Montgomery asking the judge to not consider the charges that are levied against him for murder of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. You got to listen to this shithead. Such a narcissist. He had to take control of this, and he wasn't even polite about it. He just started speaking. Did you see this, Melanie?
Yeah, I mean,
this is gag.
Yeah, let's go. Hit play on this one.
Yeah, this is gag worthy.
I did not kill my daughter Harmony.
Adam Montgomery did not.
I did not kill my daughter Harmony.
Adam Montgomery denied killing his daughter Harmony and hoped the judge would not use her death in his sentencing for being a career criminal, parole violator, and gun trafficker. All those charges got him almost 70 years in prison. But it was the scene outside the courtroom where Harmony's biological mother came to see Adam Montgomery's sentencing.
We will find her.
You think that'll come out in court?
Yes,
Crystal, why did you want to be here today for this sentencing?
because I represent my daughter.
It was
You know?
important for you to see him.
Yeah.
Why?
So he can see that I'm not going to stop for her until we find her, and he is under the jail.
Prosecutors say Montgomery got what he deserved on the gun charges, and now they will prepare for Montgomery's trial for allegedly killing his own young daughter.
And we're still looking for a little girl. So I encourage anybody out there that's watching this coverage again, putting Harmony's story back into the news where it belongs. I'm still convinced that there are people out there that know more about the whereabouts of Harmony.
I loved my daughter unconditionally, and I did not kill her.
No doubt Adam Montgomery will be making that claim once again in his upcoming murder trial of his daughter. That starts in November. It was a dramatic day in Manchester.
So there you have it. I have the full, it's like, I don't know, a minute and a half of him rambling to the judge. I'm going to cue it up. Melanie, I want to get your thoughts on his statement there, his appearance in court, and the way he spoke is just cringe.
Yeah, I mean, he's got no respect for anybody. You can just see that.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about him all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, how can he? I mean, the evidence against him is overwhelming if you believe what's written in the probable cause affidavit. So I don't know how this guy thinks he's getting out of it. He's not going to take the stand unless he thinks he's going to take the stand, which would be interesting.
Interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
Here's his full statement, and his attorney actually looks at him, and to answer your question, I think that she did know that he was going to make this statement, because this is her standing up right now looking at him. But I have the full 27 minutes of this. and we could review it later. I'll try to cue it up to the part leading up to this, but I do believe that she made a statement to the judge that my client wants to speak.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to speak as a defendant. You have that right. But he's in my mind, he's just an uncontrollable client. I mean, there's no control in this guy.
Yeah.
You could try to kick him under the table and make him shut up, but he's not going to shut up. He's going to do whatever he wants. He's not going to listen to her.
Yeah, you're right. And this is every defense attorney's nightmare, a client like this. All right, let's take a listen. Again, if you don't want to hear this, back out and then come back. But this is the full statement from Adam Montgomery to the court.
Adam would like to address you.
Yes, that was her. She said, Adam would like to address you.
Mm-hmm.
Adam would like to address you.
So I understand that I was found guilty by a jury, and I'm not here to dispute that at all. The only consideration that I ask of you this morning is for you not to consider anything as it relates to the case regarding my daughter Harmony. I did not kill my daughter Harmony, and I look forward to my upcoming trial to refute those offensive claims. Probably won't believe me when I tell you that I didn't wake up one morning and choose to become an addict. I don't want to be an addict. And I will spend my time in prison utilizing it to the best of my ability to change things about myself. I could have had a meaningful life, and I blew that opportunity through drugs. But I loved my daughter unconditionally, and I did not kill her. So please don't consider anything that relates to those charges. Only consider the facts to this case.
And you just see the way he was like cringing his mouth and the way he was talking.
Yeah.
You know, basically say, I love my daughter. And he used the crutch of his addiction to justify the situation that he's in.
Right. Was he saying, I didn't kill my daughter. The drugs made me kill my daughter, or the drugs did it, or, you know, I didn't choose to be an addict. Like it just rang hollow to me.
Yeah. My life could have been so much better. Yeah. If you hadn't lived it not correctly. And he didn't live his life correctly his whole entire life. So I have this 27-minute piece. I'm going to start scanning through it. As it stands here, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the 30-minute mark. I want to hear your questions and your comments. I'm going to share the StreamYard link in the chat. Just be prepared to, if you want to come up and ask questions about this case as it pertains to Adam Montgomery, you have to engage your microphone, you have to shut down your YouTube, and you also have to engage your video. We have to be able to see who you are, and your questions, your concerns, your comments are always welcome here. And you know, most of the time when we do these things, it's either myself or another guest, you know, a professional. Me and Melanie are here tonight. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are as it pertains to this, because this guy, again, is as evil can get. And we cover a lot of cases. There's a lot of evil out there. But this guy here takes the cake, and the world is a better place right now with Adam Montgomery incarcerated. And I'm sure you would agree, Melanie.
I do, but you know, we got to rewind a little bit and go back to like the fact that this guy never should have had custody of her to begin with. You know, that a Massachusetts judge granted in February 2019, custody of this little poor girl who never had a chance to a career felon with known addiction, crystal meth, and crack addiction problems, instead of granting custody to the a lovely couple who already had adopted her brother or half brother and wanted to also adopt Harmony. I mean, this poor girl was failed every step of the way. And, you know, but for him being granted custody, she would still be here today, in my opinion. So it's just a horrible case all around.
And Melanie, you were talking to Blair Miller and his husband, Jonathan. You know,
yeah,
they had Harmony's, I believe, brother Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to adopt Harmony and they were denied. So had they given them the opportunity to adopt her, she would have arguably still been alive today. So very, very sad situation, and we can't live on the what ifs. There was one thing I forgot to do, and I had this thing queued up, but we got so ahead of ourselves here. I wanted the audience to also hear what the prosecution had to say about Adam Montgomery, because the prosecutor, before the judge imposed this sentence, he laid out some of his evil criminal history and what, as it pertains to what he did with these guns and so forth. And I thought that he spelled it out really good. And I wanted to give the district attorney kudos and 2 thumbs up on his presentation and his team's presentation. So I want to play that, and then I'm going to share the link, and then we'll hear from some of the folks. Hopefully we'll get a couple of brave people like you had, and we had a couple of nights ago. Let's let this play, and we'll be right back, guys. So this is the prosecutor before sentencing.
And for no additional sentence to be done with theft by unauthorized taking. And that is where we disagree. For a person that has the minimum qualifying offenses and is then convicted of armed career criminal, that 10 to 20 would be the appropriate number. But that's not this defendant. And for the person who has maybe not had deterrence or rehabilitation or probation or parole as part of their previous sentences, so they never had that opportunity to truly seek some sort of rehabilitation, then maybe the 10 to 20 year sentence would be appropriate. But again, that's not this defendant. After trial, the defendant was found guilty of the armed career criminal on 2 guns and on the theft by unauthorized taking, the receiving stolen property within this window of 7 days or so, several days, in 2019. What are the 2 guns? They're the assault rifle and the shotgun. As he termed, and as we heard it from the witness stand here, the big boys, that he referred to them knowing that he could turn around and sell them to other convicted felons for money or for drugs, which he did. And having that rifle then show up in the hands of what we know now is a federally convicted drug trafficker. That's why part of the reason why armed career criminal, the minimum sentence of 10 to 20, the minimum sentence should not apply for this defendant. That behavior alone should not result in that, especially with the defendant here, who, as you've seen, has been convicted 16 years ago of pointing a knife at a 15-year-old girl, of 15 years ago during an armed home invasion, holding the neck to a victim, demanding money, and then pointing that gun at the chest of a police officer who responded, who was able to knock the gun out of his hand and wrestle him to the ground. And as you saw in those 2 matters, Your Honor, the one from 2008 involving a 15-year-old girl, he then, what did he have? A violation of probation. And for after this armed career criminal, where he held the gun to a woman's neck inside her home in front of her child and then pointed the gun at the officer, what happened afterwards? 2 separate violations of parole and probation and 3 defaults for failing to show up to court. The minimum sentence is not appropriate when you have the defendant who then after this stabs another man with a knife 15 years ago. And then 8 years ago does another armed robbery with a conviction of armed assault to murder for shooting a man in the face. That's just 5 years before the activity that's in front of you here today.
Can I ask you about that, Attorney Agati?
Yes.
And maybe I missed it. I did not see what his sentence was in that case.
From the reading of the sentence, Your Honor, and that I believe is all contained within Exhibit 3. For that particular sentence, I believe on each of the charges that went forward, the armed robbery charge, the armed and assault to murder charge, the firearm carry without a license charge, and the discharging of firearm within 500 feet of a building, that, I apologize, the last one, the discharging is just a guilty file. On the other 3, he received 18 months stand committed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
That's disgusting.
That was in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So the Massachusetts judge that granted him custody had to know about that. That had to be in the file. It was a Massachusetts crime. Ugh.
And that judge should be not on the bench right now. Should be either fired or, in my eyes, should be locked up.
Yeah.
I know that would never happen, but Massachusetts, and I have the video of the governors of New Hampshire and Massachusetts pointing fingers at each other.
Pointing fingers.
Yeah. Nobody wants to take blame for this, but it all started in Massachusetts with that Massachusetts judge giving custody to this fucking savage. And I hate to use those words. I hate to curse like that, but this thing gets me so amped up of how the criminal justice system in the courts fail so many times. And
here's another thing too. So Crystal's story was supposed to show up in court for that hearing, and she had to be across town at another hearing in another court for something having to do with Jameson. So she asked them to wait for her to come over to that court, and they wouldn't do it. They went ahead without her. So how gross is that?
yeah, it's disgusting on so many levels. And we don't hear anything about it. This is just forgotten. They're like, okay, we got away with this one. Let's just let it go. I made so many videos about this. I actually got a DCYF worker from the state of New Hampshire. I had to actually change her voice, and she wouldn't even come on face to face. She told me some stuff that was mind blowing about what goes on, not only in New Hampshire, but in Massachusetts, because you know that the DCYF workers, they know, especially when the states are so close. It's like New York and New Jersey, we speak to each other. You know what I mean? So she had good knowledge of the system in Massachusetts, and it wasn't that much different than in New Hampshire. Such a shame. But let's listen to the rest of what goes on here, because this judge, I was so glad that she asked that, because she just exposed what happened in Massachusetts and how they dropped the ball and let this. She was alluding to, wait a minute, how much time did this guy do?
Right, because everything else, he did say how much time he did, and everything else was probation and parole. So then he talked about this crime, but he didn't say. So yeah, I picked up on that too. I'm glad I'm glad she followed up on that.
Right. I backed it up a little bit so we could hear it again.
For that particular sentence, the defendant who then after this stabs another man with a knife 15 years ago. And then 8 years ago does another armed robbery with a conviction of armed assault to murder for shooting a man in the face. That's just 5 years before the activity that's in front of you here today.
Can I ask you about that, Attorney Agati?
Yes.
And maybe I missed it. I did not see what his sentence was in that case.
From the reading of the sentence, Your Honor, and that I believe is all contained within Exhibit 3. For that particular sentence, I believe on each of the charges that went forward, the armed robbery charge, the armed and assault to murder charge, the firearm carry without a license charge, and the discharging of firearm within 500 feet of a building, that, I apologize, the last one, the discharging is just a guilty file. On the other three, he received 18 months stand committed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If the defendant were here and we were in a federal setting, then he would be eligible potentially for a third strike and be looking at life without parole, or life with or without parole. And the state is not seeking that here. It's not saying that he should be getting the maximum sentence on the armed career criminals, but certainly is saying that he should not get the minimum sentence. With regards to one other aspect of that, Your Honor, on the thefts, the defendant's proposal that the theft should just be guilty findings. We don't feel that that's appropriate, given that you have two guns here. This is not a situation where you have a stolen wallet and the defendant's walking down the street, and when he's arrested for having stolen a wallet, he happens to be having a gun on him. Maybe in that situation, the state could agree, depending on history and depending on behavior, that a minimum sentence was appropriate, and that you could easily see that the wallet charge might be just a guilty finding because there's this armed career criminal charge. Defendant's not walking down the street here with a stolen weapon from somewhere else and having stolen a wallet. It's stealing two guns from inside a dwelling place, inside a home where a woman and her child were sleeping. And then what did he do with the guns afterwards? We heard he advertised, he marketed, he negotiated, he bartered, he displayed, he test fired, he sold these two guns. And as we heard from one witness, actually bought the gun back later on and sold it anew. Both of those guns now going out into the community. It's not just a simple possession. It's not just a simple theft that's there. It's a theft, and in that theft, it's a theft of two more firearms. That which he knows he cannot take, that which he turns around in such short time markets to sell to other convicted felons. It's not the right defendant to be doing a guilty finding on that, not with his pattern of history, not with the offenses that are here. With regards to, I guess, two other aspects that I want to just briefly address for you. With regards to victim impact, we have reached out to Christopher Frayne and asked whether he wanted to have any impact and provide his statements to the court. He asserted to us that he did not want to have anything to do with any matter moving forward. He did not want to provide a statement to the court. I don't know what his motivation was, what his concerns or worries are, but he made that very clear to the state that he did not wish to present anything to you.
He's worried that Adam Montgomery might get a hold of one of his goons who was on the outside and fucking kill him. That's what he's worried about.
Well, yeah, and he divorced his wife, Kimberly, who was, smoking crack and meth with Adam the night he stole the guns, and he divorced her right after that. He wants to get as far away from this as possible.
Yeah.
Who could blame him?
Many of the crew who ran with Adam are out on the street. Many of the people who were part of Adam Montgomery's crime spree and people that he hung out and got high with are out there. And as we always know, people can make calls from within the jail and make encrypted messages to take care of business and take care of things. That's why this guy didn't want to come and give an impact statement. It's pretty clear the district attorney was being politically correct about it. And he was saying, I don't know why he didn't want to come in here, but he didn't want.
Yeah, we could read between the lines there, huh?
Absolutely. Let's let this play. It's only another minute and a half of this.
With regards to the standpoint of the Manchester Police Department, as you can see, several members happen to be here today. Obviously, there are other investigations that are going on. We feel, and they feel, that this sentence is appropriate for the charges that are before you today, not for the other two guns that we will have hearings on later on, not for Harmony, who's missing, who we will have a trial later on this year. The appropriate sentence for today. Guns in the community has been a problem. It always has been throughout history. Guns in the community has been a problem. And here, the defendant, after all of his convictions, has knowingly continued to be a part of that dealing of firearms in the community. And so again, another reason why the Manchester Police Department does not feel that the minimum sentence is the appropriate sentence here. And they would agree with the position of that what the state has proposed to you. Something else has to be done. For a different defendant, for different offenses, we can understand why a minimum sentence might be right. Don't believe that's what the legislature intended for other people, like the Wallace scenario I gave you a moment ago. Then certainly might fit what the legislature was looking at, to say that we have to have this minimum time period with no suspension, no deferrals, has to be served. This defendant is not the minimum defendant. Those are basically the reasons for the state's proposal. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any this time. Thank you.
Well done.
Drugs. That's how she lost custody, right? Was drugs.
Yeah, pretty much drug use. And really that's how it this is the whole group. Harmony's step monster, Kayla Montgomery, drug user, known drug user. She's in part the reason why Adam Montgomery is going to trial for murder of Harmony Montgomery. She cooperated. She saw that her back was against the wall and she was facing a substantial amount of jail time, prison time. She didn't want to do it. And she said, oh, screw this. I'm going to save myself. But she didn't care to save herself when the pressure wasn't on her. So let's not forget that Kayla Montgomery is not an angel. She is a monster as well.
She sat there while he beat her to death.
And she cashed her welfare, the
That's right.
the checks,
Mm-hmm.
knowing
Kept cashing the checks after she was dead.
Yeah. So she's a piece of shit as well. And I'll say that loud and clear till the, till the sun goes down. And at the end of the day, everybody in this circle, including, we heard a statement from Harmony Montgomery's uncle. I think his name was Kevin, right? He was on Banfield and she interviewed him. I have the notes here. Uncle Kevin Montgomery. Okay, father. Yeah. So he was the uncle, and he was an admitted drug user himself. He said it.
But didn't he call the police and say you need to go over there and check on her because I think he's beating her up?
Yeah, punched her all about.
At least he tried to do something about it. But I remember watching the testimony in this trial for the guns and thinking to myself, I was worried. I did not think, I thought there was a good chance that he was not going to be convicted because every single person who took the stand had serious credibility issues. Every single one of them had a record. Every single one was an admitted drug addict. Some of them, yes, were in recovery. Most of them weren't. Kayla had an axe to grind because she was already granted some sort of deal to testify against him. So every single witness in this case, one worse than the next. It was touch and go for me. I was so happy when the verdict came back because I was really worried about this one.
Yeah, we had
Crazy.
many conversations about this, and we were definitely both worried because it was legit. How is a jury supposed to listen to statements from people who have had a sketchy past? And it was
everybody had an MO. Everybody had an axe to grind,
right. And
everybody had a reason to lie. So it was really interesting. If you haven't watched the testimony, you can go back and watch it on Court TV or Law and Crime or something.
The common denominator was drugs, and that was what the problem was with everyone that came up and gave their statements. The only ones that didn't have any issues were when they called law enforcement to the stand, and that's why this whole thing, when those guilty verdicts came down, we were just like, we breathed a sigh of relief. So I want to just go to the chat because we have a bunch of chickens. Nobody wants to call in, which is fine.
Oh, nobody. Wait, did you put the link in?
No, I put it in. I pinned it. Thank you for becoming a member. Well, being a member for 4 months. Hello to DutyRon and the family. Tempest Teacup. Hashtag Melanie. Hashtag DutyRon. Put your questions in the chat. We're going to go for about another 5 minutes, and we'll look for some of the questions in the chat. Keep it pertaining to this. Lieutenant Pete Pranzo, Harlem Raiders. What has he got?
Narcotics, an evil among us, destroyer of lives, mandatory sentences for dealers should return. It is bad. The drug problem in this country is horrific. The opioid crisis, the heroin problem, the meth, the crack, it is destroying lives everywhere. And, these people were testifying, again, back to the testimony, they were doing all of these drugs with their kids sleeping in the next room. I mean, it was horrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. Heather Donahue is putting this in the chat quite a bit. I counsel addicts every day and they aren't killing others. I beg to differ with you on that. I'm not saying that all addicts are killing others.
No, we're not saying
Look,
that.
In this case, we have Adam Montgomery, who, again, innocent until proven guilty. We have Adam Montgomery, who is an addict. He's not even a recovering addict. He's an admitted addict. Killed his own flesh and blood, packaged her up under some of the things that we read, broke her up into parts and put her into different pieces of into bed,
duffel bags,
and did all kinds of
coolers,
horrible, crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, listen, obviously we're not saying all addicts are killing people, but I've been around in the New York City Police Department, many drug addicts, and I've seen many horrific, heinous crimes in the name of what? Their next fix. Because someone who is fiending for heroin, cocaine, or whatever their drug of choice is, they will do anything to get that fix. And that means robbing people, killing people, people, and so forth. So that's how it goes. And I call it as I see it. And I appreciate and respect your what you do. My own stepsister is a drug counselor as well. So it's not an easy job. And I thank you for the job that you do because it's needed, really needed out there.
Yeah. And I congratulate all the addicts that decide to go for counseling and that try to quit and to get into recovery, but the majority of them do not. And that's the reality of it. And they're not just killing themselves, the ripple effects on the family is it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's horrible.
Absolutely. Hey, we got a very brave, but someone who always does come up and say hello to us. Kristen, let's unpack it. She changes her screen name all the time. So unpack it. She's making it simple. Hey, Kristen, how are you?
Hey, how is everybody? Can you hear me all right?
Hi.
Oh, we hear you
Yeah.
fine, my South Dakota princess. What's going on?
Well, it's not raining, it's not snowing, and I have a long sleeve shirt on. So I don't know where I am because it shouldn't be South Dakota.
Okay. What do you
Weather's been great.
what do you got for Melanie or myself in regards to Adam Montgomery being
So
sentenced?
it's more the entire crisis that seems to be happening nationwide. So not necessarily, sorry, I'm going to lean on this. So not necessarily just Harmony, but think of like Oakley, Carlson, and the other, it's like a wheel. And, if we don't have CPS involved, if we don't have active parents, if we don't have, ways to try and combat the opioid addictions and everything else, then how are we going to fully be able to help anyone? We have workers who aren't doing their job, who are neglecting these children, and we have kids dying left and, I'm sorry, I'm with you, Melanie. It's left and right lately. And it's effing ridiculous and it's got to stop. But where do you start the solving? Where do we start with, to actually have this begin to have a process to fix it, to correct it? Like, I don't know where the wheel of time will start turning, but there's got to be something. Yeah, summer.
Yeah, I have an idea, and I've said this before. We need to figure out what our priorities are as a nation. Do we need 80,000 more IRS agents, or do we need 80,000 more advocates for children, and caseworkers, and people who have less of a caseload who can really focus on these children and protect our children? What's more important?
Yeah.
Yep, I agree 100%. I've watched a lot of
Fuzzy Doxy also says voting in the right people. Again, politicians can't solve this problem. It has to be done on the local, state, and federal level, and everyone has to be working together. And the unfortunate part, and Melanie and I pointed this out, and I'm going to link one of those live streams about the DCYF system in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I'm going to link that video so you guys can watch it. And it is compelling when you hear the statements from this woman who said that everybody points the fingers at each other. Nobody wants to point or take accountability for when they're at fault. Everybody tries to blame everybody else, and they talk about caseloads. They talk about overtime. They talk about, she said, we only have less than 15 minutes to make a decision on a home visit. How could you make a decision in 15 minutes on whether to remove a child or keep them there? And that has to change. You have to give these workers the appropriate amount of time to go in and assess a home. And when you have it's starting with the courts, when you have court judges saying, I'm going to grant custody without checking criminal history, this is what they want us to believe. I don't believe that for a second, that Massachusetts judge didn't have access or didn't know about Adam Montgomery's criminal history. And if then that person should be fired. So
did he not look at the file? Was he just pissed off that Crystal didn't show up? And he's like, all right, she didn't show up. She defaults. You win. Goodbye.
Right.
Next case.
You saw it.
It happens though.
We saw the judge, Judge Amy Messer. She had access to the computer system right in front of her. That's the court's computer system. All you got to do is go in there and look at the person's. You could a judge could just simply run a person's criminal history right from the bench. I've seen it happen. I've seen them do it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just don't get it.
I was gonna say, I'm out here. I don't know if there's nationwide programs, but we have something called CASA. So it's court appointed safety advocate. There you go. Sorry, I had to think about what the S was. But what it is it's a volunteer program, and you have to be assigned by a judge. You have to go through a lot of you have to go through some actual training to know what to do. But you basically become that ad litem, for a guardian ad litem. Melanie, you probably can explain this maybe a little more. But they go through and they're the ones doing now the home visit, and then they report back to the social worker. So my best friend's done this for years, but up until recently, I'd never asked her how it worked. But she says basically in the last year, the social worker doesn't even go into the home anymore for home visits. She's the only one going in. And they're not getting any new volunteers. So, you're looking at people who are volunteering their times too. And she's like, I may not catch everything. And she goes, and I'm starting to feel horrible because what if I don't catch it and then something like this happens?
Wow.
So just a different, perspective on it too. It's
Mhm.
if the FSS, which my mom worked for that for 30 years, it's always been a challenge. But it's CASA. Yay! Somebody's heard of it.
Also in
CASA in
Colorado.
Colorado. There you go.
Yep. And here, look, here's Montana Mama's like is a CASA in Montana.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a great program. I don't know that it exists in New York, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If
basically, you get assigned cases by the judge based on what your training has been and everything else. And oh my God, I love the fact all these people have CASA.
I love the fact that you're bringing it to everyone's attention. So if people are interested in doing this and volunteering their time and getting out there and helping kids, now they know who to contact. So thank you for doing that.
Yep. So, I mean, if you have one in your state, then do it. Help out, because social workers, they can't do it themselves. My mom was one for 30 years. She's like, I could never do enough in a day. Never could do enough.
Army Mom 13 says CASA is in New Hampshire and Massachusetts too. Well, if it is, it didn't help in this situation.
No, but anyone who lives there, go volunteer. You can help the next one. You can help the next child. If we can do any good from Harmony and Oakley and Summer, I mean, we have to just do better.
Yeah.
Figure out ways to help.
100%. I agree wholeheartedly.
That's all I had for you guys today.
Hold on a second.
That's good. That's good info.
Curious Kiwi. Thank you so much. Kia ora. I want to just say hello to you and thank you for joining from New Zealand, not Australia. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Hey, I want to just say quickly and publicly thank you to Kristen. She is working with Josh to create new merchandise for Crime Time with DutyRon. So we have now a merch store that's attached to our channel here. It's a way for you guys to support us. There's plenty of new products that she's working on with Josh. So I want to say thank you to you, Kristen, for helping us. Yeah, a lot of things that's pertaining to Ed Wallace, who's now outside of the country. I'm not sure if he wants me to say where he is, so I'm not going to say.
No, undisclosed location.
He's traveling, and he will be. He has good internet. He's in his lodging. I'll just give you an idea. His lodging is in a bulletproof, armored room where he's staying. He's in an armored room where he's lodged right now. So he's in another country. He's in a dangerous area, and he's training people for the Department of Defense. So Ed Wallace.
Look, you can see my sunset. Sorry.
Allison wants Ed's picture on a mug. She's requesting that. I think that's a great idea.
Hey, Allison, wait till you see what I did. I got even better than Ed on the mug. I found a Ed in NYPD Blues picture from like 2005, and there may be something happening with that.
Awesome. So Kristen has a lot of ideas in the pipeline. If you have any ideas for merch, send it over on DutyRon.com, and in the title, put attention Kristen, and I'll forward those messages to her. So if you have any ideas for merch, just put it in at DutyRon.com. But she's got some unbelievable stuff. A lot of sayings from Ed's, a lot of sayings from me. So thank you so much, Kristen, for stepping up. I asked her just today to come on board, and she is officially in charge of designing all merchandise.
Official.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
So this is
thank you.
This is when a community comes together. So it's great stuff. So thank you, Kristen, for joining. I'm going to close up with Melanie. So
I was going to say I'm losing light, and I don't want to go inside. Sorry, I need to clean my house first, guys. Then I'll take you inside the house. But no, thank you, Ron, for allowing me to kind of have some purpose again and give back to everybody else. So stay tuned, be prepared. Melanie, I've got your 6 when it comes to a mug, and I already have some ideas. Like, anyways, I probably shouldn't say them on air because there's a curse word. But yeah, you should call my people. Have your people call my people, and it's the guy in the corner. Okay. All
Take
right.
care.
Thank y'all. Have a great night.
All
Bye.
right, thank you.
Hey,
All right, there she goes, Kristen. She's a ball of
she's so
fire,
cute.
and she's a photographer by trade. She does like wedding photography, and she's got her own business. So she's really good with this designer stuff, graphic design and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I'm so happy that she agreed to help out, and that's a good thing. As it pertains here, we are going to close up tonight. I want to thank Melanie for taking out an hour of her time on a Tuesday night, and tomorrow's
What day is it?
Today's
What
Tuesday.
day is it?
I caught myself. You know what screwed me up is going away for the weekend, taking off Friday. My wife and I, we lost track of time, so, and I was off yesterday too. So I'm like, I'm in work today and I'm like, yeah, isn't it Wednesday? And people are like, what are you, crazy? I said, no, I just want the week to go by.
I know, right?
But I want to say thank you to you for spending an hour on a Tuesday with me to talk about this horrific case of Harmony Montgomery. We still have a lot of work to do, and I know that you will cover this as well on your channel. But for coming on with me, I'm grateful for you sharing your expertise with us. If you guys are not yet subscribed to Melanie Little's channel, I have it linked in the description. I encourage you to go over there. She has great insight on not just cases like this, but she'll even talk about Kevin Costner's divorce. She'll talk about some of the things going on that is outside of this true crime realm. And I think it's a healthy balance because, a lot of the ladies and gentlemen who are here watching us, they want to have this true crime fix, but they also want to have a little bit of a sense of normalcy. And I think talk about those types of cases. And I think it's brilliant on your behalf of thinking of that. It's a good balance because we need to try to balance that out somehow. So I appreciate everything.
Yeah, this can be heavy if you listen to it all day long.
Yeah, that's why I try to take those walks in the park every once in a while. And I in the early stages of this true crime adventure that I started with here on YouTube, I started in the backyard. The chats in my backyard with the waterfall and the water fountain going. I take walks in the duck park, talk a little bit about crime, and then talk about a little bit of nature. I'm going to get back to doing that with you guys again real soon. But everybody in the chat, we want to say thank you to all of the moderators, the replay viewers, the folks who left super chat. I mean, I have 8 or 9 super chats here. I want to go over them real quick. Susan King, thank you for the $20. She says, I'm glad he's going down and will receive some justice. Yeah. Lisa D, thank you for becoming a member. Josh has been a member forever, 39 months. I think that's like a continuation.
Sounds like a sentence.
Yeah.
You got 39 months.
39 months of a life sentence. Jonna, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Teacup, you're the best. Love you. Retriever Mom sends in a $5 super chat. I drive past where they live often. I'll be going on his trial for Harmony. Well, Retriever Mom ×2. Keep us updated. Send me a message on DutyRon.com. I'm sure Melanie and I would love to hear some of your insight from the trial. Thank you for that. Monique, she's a member for 10 months. She said, wondering what qualifications are to be a CASA worker. And I think we went over it. It's voluntary, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you have to maybe not be a felon or something, but I'm pretty sure you could qualify, Monique, and you should totally look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look into that. Tracy, thank you for the $10 super chat with no message. Greatly appreciate your support. And that is all of the super chats for this live stream. Again, I want to just highlight the importance of Harmony Montgomery here. And there are some good people that have her best interest at heart. And I want to call out, again, the police chief, Manchester Police Chief, Alan Oldenburg. This is a man of integrity, a man who showed his emotions for Harmony Montgomery. The police investigators and all of the people behind the scenes who care about seeking justice for Harmony Montgomery, I want to send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. The attorneys that are working hard to bring justice in this prosecution of the case of Harmony Montgomery against Adam, we want to just give them all of our support. And the community who, Melanie, in these news reports, you hear people saying we've been searching forever or Harmony Montgomery, night and day. This, when they were outside the Union Street apartment, there was young and older women out there saying, we've been searching the neighborhood. We've been searching high and low for her. And we hope that they find her and bring her home. So I want to send our prayers and positive thoughts to those people, because everyone's affected by this, you know?
Yeah.
So Melanie, again, thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone who watches the replay, and we'll see you on our next live stream. Peace and love from Melanie Little and Crime Time with DutyRon.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye, guys.